In the last lectures, we were talking about the Western challenge to India, and we saw that the Indian revolts took place against the British and that they lost. Eventually, the Mughal dynasty would end also in trying to resist the British. Um, so now I'm going to switch gears into Japan. We're focusing much on Japan, especially this week. Um, And I think it's really important that I like to think about some of the shifts that took place in Japan from this time. As a side note, when I was growing up in the Cold War years, China was not considered the big topic in the United States as much as Japan. And there were a lot of old timers really frustrated that so many items were made in Japan, especially after they fought the Japanese in World War II. You could watch some movies. There's one thing with Billy Crystal about Japanese companies like kind of trying to take over small towns in America and kind of resisting the Japanese. I'm trying to remember the name of that film, but there was this overall feeling or this idea that Japan was the top in Asia, and now it's really China. We hear about China, 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 China. And there's also a lot of tension between North Korea and then issues dealing with China and Japan still that might confuse you. Here's where you can start kind of maybe picking together the pieces of the past and kind of like seeing how we got to where we're at. So, Tokugawa Shogunate and the Western Challenge. So remember Tokugawa, Japan, right? Well, by mid 1800s, two-century rule of Tokugawa family took place. And remember that they tried to ban foreigners or Westerners from doing trade, and they had it limited with the Dutch. In the 1850s, the U.S. Called for trade, and it was really Commodore Matthew Perry. He's very famous in terms of American and Japanese relations. He came a year later with a large force of warships, to kind of show of force. And Matthew Perry is really seen as the one who opens up Japan to the West, certainly with the U.S. relations. Okay. So there was a crisis here. Many samurai felt that the shogun dishonored Japan by dealing with the barbarians. And keep in mind, remember that the real power was in the hands of the shogun. The emperor was kind of a symbolic, spiritual, unifying personage, but not the actual like the one calling the shots. Okay, so the U.S. and other Western countries forced Japan to sign what are called unequal treaties, and I should have actually emphasized unequal treaties because this is what happened to China and Japan. In other words, when a deal is made where it doesn't really benefit Japan or China as much as it's benefiting the U.S. or in some other cases your other Western nations. And so there was resentment about this, okay? And this picture here is, of course, depicting these Westerners as caricatures, okay? So what was the response? The samurai felt bound to honor the shogun because of their honor code. So they couldn't rebel. This was their little conundrum, if you will. So this one very sharp samurai found a way around this issue of the honor, and he switched gears from honor of the shogun to honor the emperor. So he made the honor the emperor and expel the barbarians movement. So Yoshida showing Yoshida's what was important. He really shifted this idea to say, wait, by honor we can't dishonor our loyalty to the shogun, but we can honor the emperor. And honoring the emperor would mean to rebel against things that would be bad in the name of the emperor. So see how like there's this kind of the way he was working that out. He was beheaded in 1859, but he inspired many uprisings and becomes kind of a nationalist, a proto-nationalist figure in Japan. Before his execution, he said, "Now I sacrifice my life for my country. However, my death is never contrary to the way of loyalty and filial duties." In other words, to family and to, like, he's basically saying, I've honored the honor codes. So he is making a statement that I'm not a rebel against the shogun, but he's actually reversing. No, you're a rebel. And he says, only the gods know the rightfulness of my will and deeds. So in other words, by law he's dishonoring, but he knows that he's ultimately making the right choice. Okay, so this is a very important person and an important shift in Japan. Keep in mind the Tokugawa rule, we talked about earlier, for like 200 years. So now we're going to see like more about the results of this in the next lecture.